Hold on to your forks. Forks, folks, the food pyramid, that towering symbol eh, of dietary wisdom, has been by the Department of Health and Human. It's transforming villains into heroes and reshaping our plates in ways you won't believe. In today's adrenaline filled episode of Thursday Night Live, we'll dissect the drama, debunk the myths, and reveal how these challenges could supercharge your health. Are you ready to eat your way to truth? Then welcome to tonight's episode of Thursday Night Live. Okay, I'm back. So I don't know if you heard any music because I didn't hear any music on my end, but hopefully it was there and you got to like groove along to the sound. So today I'm going to talk about the food pyramid. So a couple of weeks ago, Robert F. Kennedy, in his position as the head of Health and Human Services, released a new food pyramid. Now I want to talk about where we were and then move on to where we are now. And so in 1992, although I believe there was a food pyramid prior to 1992, we're going to go with the last food pyramid, 1992. And basically, it showed a pyramid, and then each layer of the pyramid had a different food group. And as the pyramid got smaller, it meant that you should eat less and less of these foods. So the bottom level of the pyramid was grains, followed by veggies, and then fruit, then dairy, then meat, and at the very tippy top of the pyramid was fats. And I think for most people, we really didn't pay much attention to the food pyramid. Not that I don't think anybody I know has studied it or could say like these are the levels, except the big takeaway: meat and fats are bad. Don't eat them. Bad. And what's interesting is that based on this methodology, they suggested 6 to 11 servings of grain every day, which I can't even imagine that. So 6 to 11 servings of basically some kind of carbohydrate, which they aren't real clear what those should be. And the narrative tied to it is carbs, so carbohydrates, provide essential energy and align with the historical diet, which makes me laugh because you know that I'm into my ancient history. So the historical diet, so grains, wheat, really didn't come into the human food vocabulary till about 10,000 years ago, or, with the advent of the Fertile Crescent and the growing of wheat and the development of grains for consumption. I mean, they were around prior, but they weren't farmed in the way they are. And it's interesting because at the same time, and I did a whole video on this topic, wheat was in the Middle East, rice was in Asia, and corn was in the Americas. So 3 heavy grain products that all came to the forefront in the food narrative around 10,000 years ago. Now, they totally neglect what people ate for millennia before that, which is they were basically hunters and gatherers. So they ate a lot of meat or they ate a lot of vegetables, but a grain was something that was precious. If you sit there and look at a piece of wheat. So I'm just trying to think of like bulgur wheat. You can get that, or couscous or quinoa. I mean, they're little tiny grains, and so they would, from what I understand, they would go and collect these grains and store them up, and then like for Christmas, they would have a grain as part of their meal because it was a special event or a holiday. It wasn't like you had like meat and potatoes, or rice and beans, because it was too there was no farming. And so you just collected what you found. And so it was more of a delicacy than a regular staple in the diet, up until about 10,000 years ago with the agricultural revolution that occurred around the world. Now, what's interesting when you research this just a smidge is that you find out that there was actually, in this 1992, just prior to 1992, when they were developing this version of the food pyramid, they originally 3 to 4 servings of grain. But this recommendation, and that seems better, it seems more natural, but this recommendation was overruled before it was released, and that number was bumped up to the 6 to 11. And so you would think, well, they had scientific research to support this notion, and great minds came together to identify you really need 6 to 11 and not 3 to 4. But that would be a misnomer on your part. Portions, the number of portions to be consumed was heavily, heavily influenced by the USDA, or the Department of Agriculture, in order to sell more products. I mean, they're responsible for the people that are growing wheat or growing corn or growing whatever they're growing. And so to sell more product, they sat there and kind of pushed to have that number pushed up. But they weren't the only ones. It was also subverted by the food manufacturers. So, and the manufacturer would lead you to believe that Pop-Tarts are part of a healthy breakfast. But even with the beginning, like even the notion, okay, that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and you should have some Kellogg's cornflakes, which was promoted by the manufacturers, was actually a promotional campaign for people to get people to eat breakfast, which included these grain cereals that were now available in stores. So it wasn't necessarily, I mean, this is the part that's sick. It wasn't ever necessarily about your health. It was really about what can we push and what can we get to slide through, and we'll just program people. It's like, oh, Pop-Tarts are good. You want them. So that has all changed. And so what do we have now? And basically the food pyramid has flipped over. So now it looks like an upside down pyramid, which is kind of weird, but that's okay. And so at the top of the pyramid, so at the widest part of the pyramid, we actually have meats and fats. And I'm going to come back to this in a second. Meats and fats, followed by fruits and veggies, and then grains on the bottom. So that is the proportion that they recommend of these foods. Now, but there's another key point that goes with this food pyramid, and that is the notion that if you're eating refined food, so if you're getting your protein from McDonald's, like so, and that's what you're eating for your meat, then, are you really eating anything healthy? The same thing about oil. You hear Robert Kennedy talking about cooking fries in tallow. So tallow is rendered beef fat, which according to some people is actually, well, it is healthier for you than consuming canola oil or some other seed oil, which actually accelerates inflammation in the body and arterial sclerosis, right up there with margarine. So don't eat butter, which has fats in it, but they're not necessarily bad fats, and eat margarine that gives you secondary issues to the fat consumption. So we're in a little bit of a flux now, but anyway, let me keep going. And then when we talk about grains in particular, I mean, fruits and vegetables, that's pretty self-explanatory. You eat an apple, you eat some broccoli. That's pretty self-explanatory. And then grains, they're not, okay, so other than they're suggesting that the amount of carbohydrates out of grains is the smallest part, but they're also suggesting that these grains should be whole grains, brown rice, quinoa, as opposed to spaghetti and other highly processed foods. And of this whole thing, so to me, of this whole thing is looking at your diet. Because one of the things that they are trying to do is to reduce health concerns, because the Americans are sick. Americans have terrible diets, and chronic disease runs rampant in this country. And the amount of medications that people take far exceed what you find in other countries that eat a better diet. And so they changed the food pyramid, which I'm okay with. I think that you have to really look at it and get a deeper understanding of what it means. But to me, the bigger thing is paying attention and cutting out the fast foods, the chemically laden foods, the pre-processed foods that have led Americans to their current health crisis. Did you know, and this was a startling fact, and it's at least 60% of the foods that you find in the supermarket are pre-processed, chemically laden, convenient food that do not support health of the body. Think about that, 60%. So if you're someone like me, I mean, I eat the edges. I go to the meat department. I would say dairy, but I don't do dairy, and the vegetable department. And every so often I'll get some rice and beans or some other stuff. But there are aisles in the supermarket that I never, ever walk down. And I would say, when talking about just the food section of the store, it's at least half of those aisles that I never go down or rarely go down. I might be looking for something specific for a specific meal, which is kind of like, okay, this tastes really good, so I'm just going to get it and have it, but it's not a daily food item that I'm consuming. So take this new food pyramid in and kind of reflect on it, and maybe, well, people didn't pay attention to it before. I'm not sure that people are going to pay all that much attention to it now, but I'm hoping that the takeaway from it is for you to start looking at the foods that you're eating and decide, do I want to feed and nurture my body and give it things that are going to promote health? Or am I just going to put anything inside of it and not really care what it's doing to me, whether that's good, bad, or indifferent? So there's a bit of controversy about the food pyramid being flipped over, and I'm really not sure what's going to happen, especially to food manufacturers. If you're the person making the Pop-Tarts or these other foods, frozen bean and cheese burritos, who knows, things with textured vegetable protein in the store, I don't know what's going to happen to them. My solace in this whole thing is, the government isn't going to ban them from being sold, but in the same breath, I don't see people's relationship with foods going like an on-off switch, that they're going from this food pyramid to this food pyramid. But it is my hope that as time goes on and more information is being given to the American public, which it finally is, they are finally talking about diet and nutrition, that over time, as we learn healthier ways of eating, that these food manufacturers will have time to incorporate better food choices, healthier food choices, and I'm going to say at a fairer price. Anyway, so that's my thing for today. I hope you take that in and maybe sit there and look at what you're eating and start making, we're talking about that 2026, bringing in the new year. So that might be something that you put on your radar to start looking at and making healthier food choices for yourself as this year moves on. Okay. So one of the things that I talked about last week, but I made a graphic so it makes more sense, is some changes that are in the show now. And if I can find my cursor. Okay. All right, where's my graphic? There we go. Okay, so there are new ways that you can interact with this show. Obviously, you can go into the chat and request a reading and give me a number between 1 and 3, which is the number of times I will shuffle the cards on your behalf. Depending on when you get here, or if you want to, you can, I did not put that in here. You can go to soulhealer.com /live, soulhealer.com/live. I guess I need to fix this graphic already. And request a one-on-one. And so the things you can do is you can jump the line, which means if I get a message that you've jumped the line, I will do your reading the next one up. So if you think that you're at the bottom of the list, you get concierge service out of it. The other thing you can do by going to soulhealer.com/live is ask Dr. Rita. And so you can go and actually type in a question and I'll read your question on air and give a very specific answer. So right now I'm doing just general readings, but if there's something, you're in a relationship and you want to know what's going on, or you have a question about your work, feel free to go to soulhealer.com and ask Dr. Rita Louise. Now, I will say I don't predict the future and I don't talk to dead people. So that's the only 2 caveats, but you can ask me about anything else. And also on that page, if you want to leave me a little something, you can leave me a tip. So that's new for this year, and I'll just keep talking about it, and I'm going to change this graphic a little bit, even though it looks so great. We'll go from there. Okay. All right, now I'm just going to do my regular thing. God, I wish I could get rid of this thing here. Okay, so first up is Christine. Hey, Christine. She says, hello, how are you? May I have a reading number 3, please? And thank you. And you can have a reading number 3s, and you're welcome. Okay, and actually, I want to do this. There we go. Christine, where'd you go? All right, there you are, but you're not. Okay. All right, Christine. Ooh. So that's the card that came up for you. So, Christine, I get the feeling that you are in an uncomfortable position. I'm feeling like there's kind of a choice in front of you. I'm not sure that I would use choice, but I feel like I'm trying to think of a good way of expressing this. That there's all this static going on around you and you're not liking the static, but I feel like you feel like you don't have a choice to change this. but we always have a choice. You always have the option to pick up and move away and pick up and walk away. Now, a lot of times we don't necessarily like the choice we're being given, but the choice is still there. So maybe it's time to take a step back and look at what's going on to see if there's a different choice that you can make that will make this situation be more tenable for you, or make it so that you can tolerate it better. Sometimes it's just, you just need to speak speak up and set a boundary. So I'm not exactly sure what you need to do to make this be more tolerable for you, but there is a choice that you're going to have to make, and it might be a little bit uncomfortable, but I feel like once you go, oh yeah, I have a choice, it'll be a no-brainer, and it'll be kind of easy because you already know that you'll feel better. Okay, let me know what you think about that. I'm not, sometimes I do these readings and I get so freaking curious. Okay, and we have Unar here. Good evening, Dr. Rita and friends. Will you pick my number tonight? I sure can, Unar. And Unar, I am going to do a number 2 for you tonight. Okay, man, what's with you guys tonight? And that's your card for today. Okay, so Unar, I just get the impression, not that you're having bad brain, and I think I've talked about bad brain on this show enough for me not to have to explain that. But I'm feeling like you are uneasy, disquiet, that something is just not feeling right to you. Something is making you feel uncomfortable, but I feel like you're having a hard time really putting your finger on what it is. I want to say that this discomfort, I mean, it is your reaction to something that is going on around you, simply said. So kind of like what I just said to Christine, maybe you need to stop and look around and decide if this is a situation that you want to keep participating in. And if you do, how do you want to do that? What does that look like for you in order for you to feel good and feel healthy? And I want to put in this point. It's like, I feel like you're not understanding why you're feeling disquiet. Perhaps taking a step back so that you can get more clarity about the situation that's going on. Okay? Kind of weird. Sorry. Okay, let's see. ERRT Radio, I'm on time. And he says, happy Thursday, Rita. Your hair looks amazing as always. May I have a reading, please? Reading number 3, please. Thank you. You sure can. ERRT Radio. And that's your card for today. That's your card for today. So ERRT Radio, I feel like your body is in the process of discharging. I feel like you have, I'm going to say taken a step back and, are kind of separating yourself from what is going on out there. I feel like there's too much static out there and it leaves you feeling uncomfortable. So you are spending this time looking in, going in to find yourself and kind of do some clearing of that inner space. And it feels really good. Can I climb in there with you? I could use that. Okay, let's see. All right, happy birthday. Like a lot of conversation going on. Okay, we have Parlus. I think I'm saying that right, Parlus. First time visit, likes the title and credit edits. Thank you. So Parlus, if you would like a reading, provide me with a number between 1 and 3, and that's how many times I'll shuffle on your behalf, okay? Welcome to the show. I'm so happy to see you here, and I hope you keep coming. All right, let's see. Lord of Ink, you're back. Hello, Dr. Rita. Can I get a number 1 reading today, please? You sure can. All right, Lord of Ink. That's your card for today. That's a good card. Okay, let's see. So Lord of Ink, what came to me is like, screw you. I don't really care. I feel like you have been letting your guard down. Not that you're letting people get way back there into the inner sanctuary of who you are, but I feel like this rigid structure that you've been walking around with, you're easing it and becoming more comfortable with yourself and your interactions with other people. I feel like it's becoming easier and more comfortable for you. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave it there. So good job. Very quick transformation. So good job. All right. And Pierre said, so true what you're saying. Thank you, Pierre. All right. And then Amy says, happy Thursday, Dr. Rita. May I have a number 2 tonight, please? And thank you. You sure can. Amy. Oh, and Amy, I fixed the tip thing. It's a long story, but it's there now. All right. So, Amy, that's your card for today. Okay. So, Amy, I get the impression that this past week was kind of funky for you. And you keep showing me this picture of you like climbing out of like a den of wolves out of the roof. It's like, oh, and it's a kind of a slow climb. You're not 100% of the way out, but you can see free space and free air above you. So that's a good indication. Okay, and I'm going to say this out loud, but they are telling me, so I'm sharing with you this, that there is a lesson in that muck that you've just been going through, and they almost are suggesting you go back in or maybe collect your thoughts, collect your space, and then re-engage because you missed something. Or maybe you're supposed to like address it in a different way, a more healthy way. Coming back in the second time, okay, they're being a little chatty. I get the impression that you were kind of blindsided. And by taking that step out, you can go back in with all the force and power that Amy has in addressing a situation, and have more control over your energy and how things play out versus kind of getting caught up in this whole weird emotional space. Okay? Okay, let's see. All right. And then we have Joe. Hey, Joe. Happy New Year, Dr. Rita. May I have a number 2 reading? You sure can, Joe. Alrighty. So you guys, so if this stuff is making sense to you, what I'm talking about, I would love to get some feedback below. Because as you know, it's like I talk about these things and they kind of make sense to me. Don't really know. And as a reminder, you know, I still have a bunch left to do. But if you want to jump the line or ask a specific question, go to soulhealer.com/live or leave a tip, soulhealer.com/live, and use the little online form. Thank you. Okay, so Joe, here's your card for today. And let's see. So Joe, the first thing I experienced when I kind of tuned into your energy is that you're having a hard time catching your breath. And I don't think I'm meaning that. Hopefully I'm not meaning that in a physical way, that there's something functionally wrong with you that you can't catch your breath. I feel like things have just been kind of in this whirlwind going on around you and you can't catch your breath. You know, I feel like it's been challenging for you to ground yourself. And I'm just going to say, I think it's been challenging for everyone to ground themselves these days. Okay. And they are suggesting that you own that you recognize that you're really not that grounded and things are a bit of a flurry right now. And, you know, I don't want to say you're going to go off the handle, but I feel like there is that potential that you don't control it because everything is swirling around and somebody wants to throw something on the top of the pile and you just can't deal with it. And so I'm just suggesting for you to be mindful of that potential based on where your energy is right now. Okay, I'm not saying that that's who you are, but that's where your energy is right now. Is that, you know, there's the camel. Here's the thing that broke the camel's back, you know, and you just need that one thing. So just be mindful of that because that will keep you from going over the edge. Cool. Okay, let's see. And now we have Jess. Hey, Jess. And it says, hi, Dr. Rita. May I have a number 2 reading, please? Thank you. You sure can. Okay. Oh, and that's your card for today. And let's see. So, Jess, I get the impression that you are trying to figure out how to have more fun in your life, how to bring in some action and adventure. I feel like you feel like, not that it's been boring, but it's been not fun. How's that? Is that very scientific? And I feel like you tend to be kind of spontaneous, and if there's an adventure to be had, you'll jump on board. But I feel like that really hasn't been happening. But it is something that feeds you, that fills your soul. So maybe you can plan an adventure for this weekend, because I feel like that part of you, like the bank is getting kind of thin, and take a weekend to have some fun. Go on an adventure, go shopping, go take a little trip somewhere. I mean, even a day trip would help fill in what is missing right now. Okay? Okay, let's see. Okay, Joe, I already did you. Already did you. So Amy put, I don't think our systems are built to eat grains. Wouldn't we need two stomachs for that? But see, I think that's why most grains are ground up, to make it more digestible to eat. I mean, I know that I want to say Neanderthals, but I don't think like 40. They would take cattails and grind those up and use them as some kind of carby thing. How they came up with it, I have no idea. And that was the advent of wheat evolution, where they had, I have no brain anymore. I swear to God. Elmer wheat, I think it was Elmer wheat, or it became Elmer wheat, but they were starting to use that in their diet. So that was 40,000 years ago. But again, they weren't farming it. They were hunter-gathering it. So it was a thing of opportunity. Okay. And it's Amy McCartney. Hey, Amy, how are you doing? Long time no see. Thank you for stopping in tonight. Okay. And then Don, hey, Don. And he says, hi, Dr. Rita. I'm late, but you're here, Don, and there's still time. Can I have a number 2 reading? You sure can. Okay, and Don, let's see what the cards have for you today. And that's your card for today. Don, it's a good card. Maybe. I mean, so Don, this is interesting. I get the impression that you just had like an aha light bulb kind of moment. I want to say that it was like very, very recent, like today. I'm not getting yesterday, so I'm going to say today. Could have been 10 minutes ago. It feels very new and very fresh. I feel like you haven't fully processed what it is. And again, I can just see the energy. I can't say, oh, well, it's this thing. But I feel like you got a glimpse into, and I'm going to say a behavior you have exhibited in the past. And it's almost like you had a chance to look in the mirror. And when you looked in the mirror, you were like, oh, am I really doing that? And so that's why, I mean, it hasn't fully been processed in, but I feel like there was a recognition, and that you could see something that was there, that has been there for a long time, that you weren't able to see before. And things like that bring on change. So Dawn, whatever it is, if you want to share, I would love to hear. Good job. Good job. And then he says, Dr. Rita, on healthy eating, today's food mostly can't be trusted. I don't think American food companies really ever thought or made so-called healthy foods. I mean, I think there are some. I saw this graphic on Facebook, or I don't know, one of the social medias, that said foods that are banned from other countries. Milk, I think it was beef. I don't know. There was this whole list of stuff. Now, one thing that wasn't on the list was vegetables. And I'm like, well, how could they not put vegetables on the list considering how much pesticides we put on them? But I think our whole food chain, you know, unless you buy organic, which is even at times questionable, you know, and range fed, you know, free range stuff, that what you're eating is definitely questionable. And that's why I usually encourage people to do some kind of a detox, you know, once a year, once every couple of years, a couple of times a year, just to kind of get rid of that stuff we've taken in that our body doesn't know what to do with it. I mean, we're designed to process fats, carbohydrate, proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, and, you know, not propylene glycol. Our body doesn't know what to do with propylene glycol, and it has to get processed by the liver. And after a while, you know, our liver gets a little bit tired trying to get rid of all of this junk that we're consuming, and then we wonder why we're sick. Anyway. And then Christine says, thank you. I have a lot going on that is very stressful. And Christine, you know, if you make it so that the only thing that you do and your goal and focus for the entire day is, I just want to breathe. I just want to have a couple of minutes of deep breathing or some tapping or anything that will kind of bring you back in the present. If that's all you can do in the midst of that stress, you're doing a great job. Okay. So Pierre says, Dr. Rita would love to have a #1 read. Pierre, my, you want a reading? I can do that for you. Okay, Pierre, let's see what you got going on. All right, that's your card for today. And so, Pierre, I feel like you're doing a bunch of mental inventory right now. I get the impression, and hang on one second. I get the impression that there has been and I'm going to say a significant shift for you. The feeling I'm getting is like a relationship ended, a job ended. I'm feeling like as if there was an ending, but the ending happened like a year ago. I mean, I feel like it's been fairly far back. And there has been this tumultuous energy going on inside of you, trying to figure out, well, this is what I need to do, and this is where I need to go, but you haven't been able to really get an answer or lock onto it. But I feel like that process like stirred up all of the crap, and now you are kind of like doing an emotional detox. You are letting all of this stuff go. But as you let this stuff go, it's making more room for new things to come in, you know. And I'm going to say this because I love you and I know you'll hear me. But I feel like one of the big things that you have been forced to deal with is your own ego. And I'm not saying that in a mean way. I'm just repeating, and having to learn how to surrender. And I feel like that's been a very hard lesson for you. But I feel like 2026 is going to be this really good year for you for honest and authentic spiritual growth. So it's good because the yucky part's over. Now you just have to like kind of go with the flow and allow it to happen. So cool. Okay, let's see. Okay, and I just got a tip from Amy. Amy, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And then Lord of Rings says, so right. And Lord of Rings, I'm always right. Except for when I'm not, but mostly right. I'm mostly right. All right, Jess, I think I did your reading already. I don't know, there's a little... I'm pretty sure. Jess Knox. I did you already. You guys keep trying to trick me. And then Don says, Dr. Rita, your hair looks great. Thank you, Don. Oh, and then Jess came back and said, accurate. Thank you, Jess. Hey, John, how you doing? Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you for tuning into the show tonight. It has always warmed my heart when I see you come in here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, Rosie B. Hi, Dr. Rita. May I have a number 3 reading, please? And thank you. You sure can, Rosie. All right, Rosie. All right, that's your card for today. That's your card. And let's see. So the first thing that I just want to bring up is you pursuing this new direction. So that's where I want to start, but I feel like I need a piece of information. Okay, so Rosie, I just get the impression that you have been dissatisfied with life over the last few years. You know, I don't want to say depressed, but I could see it manifesting as, you know, some form of depression. And I feel like you have stumbled upon something that is bringing joy and bringing passion and bringing all of this energy into your life. I feel like you are just starting down this journey. I feel like there's so much more for you to learn and study and explore and touch and feel. But the most important thing is I feel like it's bringing you satisfaction, and you haven't had the feeling of satisfaction in your heart in a very long time. So honor that and nurture that and go with that, because usually that's spirit saying you're on the right track. So good job. Unar says, thank you for the read. I will be thinking about it. I always appreciate your advice. You're so welcome. And then Joe says, thank you for the reading. I'll think about it. Thank you. All right. And then Amy says, thank you, Dr. Rita. We'll bring more of me to the table when necessary. Heading to the tip jar. As always, thank you so much, Amy. And all of you can go to soulhealer.com/live and leave me a little something in that tip jar. I'd appreciate it. Unar says, can't ban devil brand coffee. It's good for us. That's right, because it's got the devil. All right. Don says, yes, you're right. I have done and need to push to the past. Thank you, Don. But you know what, Don? Sometimes when we see things that we've done in the past and have that kind of like, oh my God, insight, they can be the most transformative moments in our lives. So it's good. I'm happy for you. All right. And then, oh, we're at the bottom. So Pierre says, so right, stop working in December, waiting new shifts for 26. Thanks a lot. Well, you know, there's Neptune is moving into Aries, which is going to be a big shift. And we also have the fire horse, the Chinese fire horse, which is going to be on February 7th. You know, so I keep joking around and thinking, well, I don't know that I really want to do anything till the end of the month, like make any big decisions until the end of the month. So that's my thought. And then Rosie B said, thank you, Dr. Rita. Appreciate you. And you're so welcome, Rosie. And that's all good. Anyway, guys, so I am at the end of the list here. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you will take a moment to look at the foods that you're eating and maybe start becoming more mindful of it and making different choices in this 2026 year, because once you start eating healthier food, your body is going to respond in a healthy way. And you never know, you came in thinking you want to lose weight, and that's, like, I want to lose weight, but maybe where the focus needs to be is, well, maybe I need to nurture my body. Maybe I need to love myself and love my body enough to feed it good food. Anyway, guys, so that's it for tonight. I'm going to let you all go. I hope you have a wonderful evening. And so until next week, I'm Dr. Rita Louise. This is Thursday Night Live. Be blessed.